What's up, everybody? It's your good friend Lukie, and this is my new YouTube channel. Please subscribe to help me. Look on the screen. Don't be a reoccurring viewer. Only 25% of the people watching these videos are subscribing. Hit the bell icon. Subscribe now, please. What's up, everybody? Fresh out of surgery, not a ton of energy. Definitely feeling surgery, so we're going to rush into this. Not going to be as good of an episode as you probably are used to, although it's debatable whether any of these episodes are good. Let's start with Frank Martin. He gets a win over a guy named Artem, Armenian fighter. I can't say his last name. Now, Frank Martin's one of these guys where I think there's a huge expectation because he's with a super team promoted by Spnece Jr. with Man Down Promotions. Derek James, really acclaimed coach, very interesting figure, kind of like a Phil Jackson in basketball, a Zen Buddhist type approach. And it's interesting that he actually is a practicing Buddhist. We learned in All Access episode 2, Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. What we learned is Frank Martin is still a developing fighter. What we've forgotten about Frank Martin is before he got with Derek James, he was a regional talent. He was a club fighter that a lot of the bigger promoters had passed on. And I think that what we're seeing is there's still elements of Frank Martin's game that possibly some of the issue here was inactivity, some ring rust. He talked to timing and having some issues. I think Artem also had that Dmitry Bivol style that was able to offset some of the things that Frank Martin wanted to do. But really what the big issue I saw here was some ring rust, and Martin's very reliant on his power. In this fight, in the Jackson Marinez fight, he was able to shift the fight's momentum based on him hitting harder and him being able to give out more damage. The next question in Frank Martin's development is what happens when he runs into someone that can take his power. Because he is a good boxer. He's shown that in the Michel Riviera fight. But against Artem, he had some issues with Artem's boxing, just to be right out on Front Street. And the way he shifted this fight was based on power. He came forward when Derek James told him he was losing. He got very aggressive. He got a knockdown in the last round, and that basically won him the fight. It was not the performance I'm sure he wanted, because this is a performance that leaves more questions than answers. I think Frank Martin was looking to make a emphatic statement and say, okay, I'm ready for the top guys, the William Zepedas, Isaac Pitbull Cruzes, Giovanni Cabreras, the next era of lightweight. Maybe even put his name in the hat for Shakur Stevenson. Instead, now it feels like we're saying, yeah, but we need to see him in with another guy. I think the winner of Isaac Cruz, Giovanni Cabrera, would be a great fight for Frank Martin next. I still think he's a couple of fights away from like a Gervonta or a Shakur. I'm not sure if he'll ever be at that level. I think that the expectation should be lowered. But I think Frank's an exciting fighter with a ton of potential, but he has to develop, and I think that we need to set realistic standards for where his career is going and what he needs at this current point. Very good fighter, very strong fighter, able to hit hard, has an ability to box, but I think his temperament is to come and find you and to bang you out. And we got to see how he handles a real world-class boxer, a real thinker at the top of the sport. He might be able to do all that stuff just as well. This was a fight that I think is a trajectory fight that's going to be the crossroads of his career. He's either going to greatly improve from this fight, or this is going to be the beginning of the end. Co-feature, Elvis Rodriguez defeated. He actually stopped Viktor Postol. Viktor Postol is 39 years old. Where is time going? Well, it's going by. Elvis Rodriguez, as my man Dakota said on the podcast this week, he's a guy that when it was 2020, when we had the top-ranked bubble, the guys that broke out were Elvis Rodriguez, Edgar Berlanga, Jared Anderson, Xander Zayas. They were the ones that had the big highlight performances. Elvis Rodriguez lost to Kenny Sims Jr. on the Jose Ramirez-Josh Taylor card, where Josh Taylor became the undisputed world champion. And after that, he's been kind of an afterthought. He's fought a few times on PBC cards, most notably a Joseph Adorno win. This is his biggest step up. This is his biggest fight since the Kenny Sims Jr. fight. Was getting outboxed early in this fight. Postol was keeping the fight in the middle. Rodriguez landed a damaging blow to Postol. He said after the post-fight, said in the 5th round, it shifted the fight in the 6th, and then he got the stoppage in the 7th. He kind of wore him down and broke him down. Look, Rodriguez looks as good as ever. Losses shouldn't define fighters. For some reason, after that loss, my level of excitement with Elvis has diminished a bit. It's kind of in the Carlos Adames category for me, where Adames a really good fighter. I'm starting to warm up to him, but that way he lost to Patrick Teixeira left kind of a weird taste in my mouth, to the point where I'm like, ugh, I don't know what it is. It's unfair, but I don't get that level of enthusiasm the same way. Elvis Rodriguez still has a little bit of that, where it's hard for me to get that full-on enthusiasm, because he's looked awkward at times against Joseph Adorno, a guy who's undersized for 140 pounds. At times he looks lost. Postol, older fighter, big win, but it's time for us to kind of to get Elvis in a make or break fight. Carlos Adames I'm now all in on, because he's won a couple of these tough fights. Elvis really needs to finish this year off with a fight that's interesting, and then we'll take it from there. Freddie Rojas Jr. opened up the card. Really composed veteran performance from a young fighter. Didn't rush the performance at all. McFly, which is his nickname, just worked his distance and then applied pressure when needed. Good fight. Also, Quentin Randall, friend of the program, picked up a win over Willie Jones. It's a shame that there was no form of a telecast for that. Also, Anthony Cuba beat Angel Rubalar. Rubalar is one of these tough lightweight guys that's on the club scene, who's giving guys tough rounds. He beat Justin Cordona. Charlie Sheehy beat him. Abdullah Mesas beat him. He's just a tough veteran guy that's fighting a lot of the best fighters in the country and not turning down fights. Alycia Baumgardner headlined, beat Christina, can't pronounce her last name, on DAZN. It was a homecoming. It was an undisputed fight. It's avenging her first career loss. And though I really enjoy Alycia Baumgardner, I think that she has tremendous personality. I think that she's an A-list celebrity in the sport of boxing. There is also a lot of concern on my end. I think she's gradually slowing down from the Mikaela Mayer performance. We're seeing that same performance, in my opinion, but with diminished returns. So in the Mikaela Mayer performance, we saw 3 really solid rounds, and then I think she nabbed a few in the middle, and it's debatable whether you think it was a draw, whether Mayer won or she won. I think it was a very close fight that's open to interpretation. When she fought for the undisputed title back in February, similar, but she started to slow down the second half of the fight. In this performance, I noticed she's now sitting down in her shots. I saw a lot of people. So there's 2 schools of thought with Alycia Baumgardner. There's a school of thought that she's developing a more pro style where she's sitting down on punches and she's tougher to beat. For me, what I'm seeing is she's really sitting down on punches, and then she's having trouble in the second half of the fight keeping up the pace that she started in the first half of the fight. Against this level of opposition, it's good opposition, but really, realistically, I understand this fighter had beaten her, and this is avenging a loss. This is kind of like in the realm of when Adonis Stevenson avenged his loss to Darnell Boone. Darnell Boone had beaten Adonis Stevenson and was a boogeyman at the time, but at the same time, I think most people saw Adonis Stevenson at that time as a different tier. I think most people looked at Alycia Baumgardner as a different tier, even though this opponent, Christina, had beaten her in the past. What I'm curious about is the focus of Alycia Baumgardner, because I'm starting to see some habits that Tony Harrison has in his fights, in her fights, where my man Dakota, why I love doing the Sunday podcast with him, is so right. Baumgardner has aspects of Josh Kelly where you see all the elements of the boxing talent, but the level of focus is really, really not there from rounds 1 to 10. At times, her focus leaves, and I just worry when you fight an Amanda Serrano, when you fight a Chantel Cameron, a Katie Taylor, when you fight these top fighters, you have to be focused for the whole fight, and I think that's also part of the reason why the Mikaela Mayer fight was so close. That fight probably shouldn't have been as close, but Mayer kind of started to impose what she does, and I think at times Baumgardner lost focus in that fight, which made the fight very, very close, despite what a lot of people might say. It's really a perception fight. So Baumgardner, to me, I really want to see a little bit more when she closes out, because she has the potential to be one of the most influential women's boxers ever. She has the potential to be someone who a squad of young women come up behind her and say, I'm boxing. I'm a women's boxer because of Alycia Baumgardner. And I'm looking for her to kind of separate and put her name on the Mount Rushmore of the great women's boxers. These last two performances have just been kind of her somewhat dominating, but she hasn't fully separated. She's looked as though she's at the right tier, and I'd like to see a bit of separation in these fights. Andy Cruz made his pro debut. He's probably going to be one of the most critiqued, talked about, and debated pro debuters ever. I'm a little critical, even though it's really, really unfair. The guy turned pro in a 10-round fight facing Juan Carlos Burgos, a former world titleist. The guy's extremely good. If we're just being rational, he's one of the best fighters to turn pro and have a pro debut at this level. The problem is the expectation is he's being built up to fight for a world title in 2024. They're calling out the biggest names in the sport. He's more of a methodical puzzle than he is our prototypical Cuban fighters we've seen before. Erislandy Lara, Guillermo Rigondeaux, Yuriorkis Gamboa. What do I mean by that? He doesn't really seem to have the same level of power. He's very, very tricky. He has elements of Lomachenko where he's a hard target to hit, but I don't see him yet sitting down on his shots. Bozy Ennis is working with him. That's Jerome Boots Ennis' dad. He has a great team behind him. The thing is, with a fighter like this, the expectation is going to be to move him extremely fast. And for me, I want to see how he does with durability, because my big concern with Andy Cruz since the amateurs was when he turns pro, everyone knew he was going to be the most sought-after commodity in boxing, basically, the most sought-after amateur. So he was the number one amateur for like 5 or 6 years. Everyone knew who he was. It's going to be, how does he handle durability? How does he handle physical toughness? Because that is just, I used to come into boxing and it was skills. And skills matter. I always want to be with the most skilled fighter. But there's a level of physical toughness that you have to be able to handle in the pro game. There's a level of physicality that you saw when Salido beat Lomachenko. My concern has always been, how is Andy Cruz going to handle someone that's physical like that? Now, the argument is, will they be able to touch him? I'm not sure. But inevitably, he's going to get into a fight where he's going to have to stand his ground at points. I think, honestly, if they keep moving him at this level of competition, Andy Cruz probably won't ever get a knockout. No knock to him. It's just they're going to move him into these harder level fights. And I don't think that he's got the most power to begin with. He's a guy that's an accumulation puncher, so he might accumulate some stoppages. He's very crafty, but I also think that this is going to be more of a project than it's going to be a Vasyl Lomachenko, where you can kind of just let him go and fight, and people can say, oh, he's overrated or he's the greatest ever. Thing with Loma was, in 2 fights, he was ready for a world title. I think Andy Cruz, you have to be a little bit more strategic. You have to work around his strengths and balances. And I'm kind of concerned that they're going to move him too fast, because I think that even though he's one of the best amateurs I've ever seen, he's the most amateur boxer ever. His left hook, he stands up super tall and he's ready to be hit with a right hand. I'm not sure how comfortable he is fighting on the inside. And I think that he needs some time to get to that point. But I think that the belief is they want to target, his team wants to target some of these big names rather quickly, and I think that might be an issue, because I think that they're going to miss out on some of the developmental stage, because I think he could be a pound-for-pound level fighter. It's just I have a gut feeling that he's going to be rushed into this. DAZN, we had Jermaine Franklin win. Joe Rico O'Quinn kind of had like a close fight that one judge just didn't care. Josh Kelly kind of does the Josh Kelly thing where he shows all the talent in the world, yet he doesn't even, it doesn't seem like he's all that interested in the fight itself. Let's go to news and notes before I run out of time here. So, pay-per-view, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. We got a new pay-per-view undercard. We got, obviously, co-main event, still the same. Isaac Pitbull Cruz, Giovanni Cabrera. I think that's a fantastic fight. People are dogging it. I think Cabrera is going to win that fight. Now the new third attraction is Nonito Donaire versus Alexandro Santiago. That's a WBC bantamweight vacant title. Donaire looking to be a 40-year-old world champion, make history, break his own record, being the oldest bantamweight champion. Opener is a guy, TL's taking on Sergio Garcia. I don't know a thing about these guys. I'll do research in a week, but that's the card. 3 fights are really good. The first fight before was a goofy heavyweight fight, so instead of a goofy heavyweight fight, now you got a guy that trains with Ronnie Shields who probably hits hard. So, I mean, it's still a really good card in my opinion. That's the pay-per-view card for Spence Crawford. You're going to probably buy it regardless because the main event is awesome. Co-main event's awesome. What else do we have? Liam Smith is rumored to be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. Okay. Really over the Chris Eubank Jr. stuff. Like, he gets knocked out in January. He's fighting Conor Benn. Oh, now I'm fighting Liam Smith. Oh, now I'm doing... I mean, Chris Eubank Jr., fine enough fighter, but he's more of a social media influencer guy than he is a prize fighter. He's struggling, I feel, against guys that probably the best of his era wouldn't be struggling with. He's had a lot of opportunities. He just needs to pick a fight date. I don't really think he's going to win many fights from this point on in his career, but he needs to get active because I feel like in the middleweight division, he's one of the bigger names, and he's just kind of holding up a lot of a held-up division, a lot of a division that has no real opportunities for a lot of fighters. So the sooner he can get in with Liam Smith or Conor Benn, it opens up opportunities for other fighters to book fight dates, and it just allows the sport of boxing to move more fluidly. Devin Haney got arrested this week, alleged gun charge. You've probably heard all about it. Whatever. You know, that's a lifestyle thing. It sounds like it was a misunderstanding. Someone in his entourage had it, but he owned the car. We wish the best for Devin. I never want to see anyone get arrested. That's a doggone shame. When people get arrested, that's nothing to be proud of or anything. WBO news, junior welterweight news. Teofimo Lopez, unretired, says he's the champion. This was in the 23rd hour of a 24-hour notice when the WBO mandated Arnold Barboza Jr. versus Jose Ramirez for the vacant WBO junior welterweight title. Devin Haney had tried to get a 24-hour extension for trying to challenge for that title. And then immediately Teofimo jumped in, called out Devin Haney. And there felt to be a sentiment that Teofimo is going to kind of put pressure on the WBO to sanction a fight between himself and Devin Haney for the junior welterweight WBO title, which is by far the most profitable fight that could be made in that division. And it seemed like Arnold Barboza was absolutely pissed. Barboza on Saturday, first reported by ESPN. Go to Pro Box TV News to see some exclusive quotes that I got of both Rick Marigian and Arnold Barboza. Barboza parted ways with Top Rank INC. It's his promoter since the Mike Alvarado fight, or not Mike Alvarado fight, when he sparred Mike Alvarado for the Juan Manuel Marquez fight. He's been with them. They're letting him go, and I think that Barboza's contract was going to expire in August. It seems like Barboza is very, very frustrated because he just has never gotten his world title shot with Top Rank, and it seems like they both have kind of lost faith in each other. So Barboza, there weren't that many opportunities for him being presented. I think that some internal in Top Rank felt that maybe he was turning down a fight or two. I know there had been rumored talks of a Kenny Sims Jr. fight, a Liam Paro fight. We've never gotten Barboza's side to that. I think Barboza feels that he should have gotten a world title fight by now, and it just feels like it's probably best that they go on their own ways. I think if I were to guess, 2 options that could probably be very suitable for Barboza could be Golden Boy Promotions, because Barboza is an LA-based fighter. Golden Boy is based out of the LA area, and they're really looking for some kind of star power, with Zordo basically being inactive this year and Virgil Ortiz missing weight and probably not returning this year because of health issues. Barboza could really strengthen Golden Boy's lineup if he were to go over there. I think another place would be Matchroom, that has Regis Prograis, who Barboza has tried to pursue a fight with in the future as well. That's it. So subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you can tell if I'm hurting a little bit. And I'll see you next week. Hopefully I'm a little bit more energetic. Talk to you later.